I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where Gary and I talk about comic books starring the X-Men. Gary, we're back.
We're back, baby.
How you been, man?
Well,
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's warming up here steadily. I'm looking forward to when we're done. I can pop on the AC and cool it down a little bit.
I follow various meteorologists in our territory because of hurricane stuff. And now that there's no hurricane news, other than shit sucks. But now that there's no you're in danger
about,
news.
Pops and shit that these nerds bought.
Yeah. Now it's just hey, it's super hot outside, and no, it's not going to get any cooler anytime soon. Stop asking me. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. The idea that people blame the weather guy for it being hot is really funny to me.
We had passed our heat wave, it seemed like, but now it's back.
Oof.
So yeah, it's not outlandish. It's not as hot as it is there, but it's still pretty hot. And specifically, I'm moving. Really happy to get out of this apartment because this apartment has 2 windows. They're both on the same side of the building, so you cannot get any cross breeze. The apartment is consistently about 10 degrees hotter than it is outside.
Oh, joy.
With the windows open. Yeah, it's there's a little thermostat on the air conditioner, so when I turn it on, I'm like, hold up, 91, and then I'll look at the the weather on my phone, and it's 84 outside. I'm like, fuck this.
Sucks.
Yeah, this is this weird little heat trap. It's also anytime I cook anything, the whole apartment just Emma came over and she's like, when did you make broccoli? And I'm like, 2 days ago. Just
it still smells, my dude.
It doesn't move. Air just does not move in the air. So looking forward to going to a real big boy place for my 40th.
The other day, I saw somebody posting about the weather, and it said that the humidity is so high that it turns the air so thick you can fight it, and the heat index is so nasty that you're going to want to. And I was okay, people are having a lot of fun with this. Thank God we have air conditioning.
Hot weather people drive me fucking nuts. I understand that it's contrarian to have a strong weather preference no matter what. When I'm winter is good. I understand that's contrarian too. But whenever it's 90 degrees or 100 degrees, there's always somebody who's just oh yeah, this is great. I can't wait to be outside. I'm like, what is wrong, man? How can you like this? I recognize I got some chunk on me. I'm a man of courage, so I probably sweat more than you do. But also, how is this just pleasant to your skin?
We built the carport next to our house, and it's concrete slab, an aluminum cover, so it's in the shade and all this other stuff. And when we first got it, it was at the beginning of summer, and it became a afternoon ritual. We would go out there and sit out under the carport, and there was a breeze. It was we would be in the shade, so it's kind of cool. And then it steadily got to the point where Autumn would be you want to go? And I'm like, no, man, I really don't. I just don't. It's so hot, even in the shade. It's just going to be gross. Can we just, can we wait till fucking October or something? Maybe Halloween will come around and we'll have a good time out there again. I don't know. Not now.
Yeah. Shade is fake. People talk about shade like it's magical. Well, it's not so bad in the shade. It's nice when the breeze is going. Yeah, no shit. When nature's putting a fan on you, it feels good. But you can't control that.
Yeah. Shade is the thing about shade is when it's super hot outside, it's just marginally better in the shade, which isn't necessarily good. It's just marginally better. We used to fight for parking spots with shade in Phoenix because it was so fucking hot during the summer that you would get into your car and it was just you'd have to have the windows open and the air conditioner going so before you could touch the steering wheel. It was fucking horrifying. But if you were in the shade, it was all good. So
fucking A. X-Men Deadly Genesis.
Yeah, all of that to say.
It's a miniseries that ran in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ed Brubaker, who is a comics writer I rather like.
Me too.
Was kind of the X-Men architect for a while. Out of the stuff he did, I didn't like all of it, but I did generally like it. And this is drawn by Trevor Hairsine, who was a artist who was basically not the not the planetary guy. He was a lot like Brian Hitch, but not Brian Hitch.
Okay.
Really weird. He reminds me a lot of Brian Hitch's art, the Ultimates and Planetary Guy. With covers by Mark Silvestri, shitty Comicsgate monster. we talked about before.
Yes.
And this was a big deal. This was a big turning point X-Men thing. This wasn't like a storyline like around the same time. There's a storyline that dealt with Colossus and finding out that he's descended from Rasputin.
Yes, I remember that.
This isn't that kind of thing. This actually had a pretty big impact.
What would you do if you found out you were descended from Rasputin? Would that change your day to day, you think?
Yeah, I'd probably get it put on a business card or whatever.
Do you have business cards?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess like going to conventions.
I'm a professional podcaster, Jeremy Greer. Like I just,
I'm sorry. Like some people don't have business cards. It's not didn't know you're going to be so weirdly defensive about it. My bad.
I hand them out at conventions and stuff. If there's ever like a real life again, and I meet people.
Maybe we will shake a hand of a stranger we don't know and not immediately feel like you are gross.
Yeah. Cannot wait. This is in the wake of a couple big events that we should probably give a little bit of background on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we move into it. House of M.
Big one.
Maybe someday we'll cover that. I don't hate House of M. It has a bad reputation. It did give a really weird status quo to the X-Men, though. In House of M, Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, and she only got most of her wish because instead of there being no more mutants, there were like 200 mutants left.
198 to be exact, I think.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the 198, that little miniseries. Mm-hmm. And what this did, and I can't remember the exact logic of this, but the government got really invested in the X-Men at this point. There was something called Sentinel Squad 1, which had its own miniseries, which were Sentinels that were sent to guard the mansion. This is basically the X-Men were on house arrest for a while.
Yeah.
And this crossover, this miniseries takes place during that.
Mm-hmm. I also am really into House of M. Like I kind of read it all in a bunch and really, really liked it. I was kind of like I've talked about with the relationship that she has with Vision and the Avengers and the current MCU and with that weird TV show that may or may not be coming out anymore. Like that is like, I think you and I may have talked about this of like if doing the opposite of House of M would be really interesting to me of like her trying to bring her brother back or whatever. And like she creates a bunch of mutants. I think would be super cool.
Yes. More mutants.
Yeah. some more mutants.
Just her, like leaning forward like, more mutants. Kabam.
So like I'm like I think Scarlet Witch is a really interesting character in the comics. I think they haven't really done a whole lot with her in the MCU, but she's
horrible.
Yeah, with that weird floating accent.
Yeah,
but I would want to see more of that. And like this story taking place in this, I remember reading this and going like, oh yeah, like I had just finished House of M, and so like wanted more to see what they were going to be doing with the X-Men. And this is a really fun story. Like I think, I haven't read this since I read it originally, which would be like probably 2003 or 4 ish.
It came out in 2006.
So it's definitely 2006. That was right around the time I got big into comics, so I was just kind of hedging my bets there. Like that was when I got back into comics.
Right about the time I got big into time travel. Yeah. I was pulling artifacts from the future.
Rachel Summers came and was like, hey, you need to read this.
Do you want to kiss yourself? I can do that.
I can make that. I can make that happen. Like that's a special request, 20% tippers only. But I remember reading this like around the time all this was happening and being really, really into it. So I'm curious how it will hold up. I've only read the first 2 issues. I didn't have time to get to the other 4 before we recorded. So
I read it because I am getting ahead for my move. And it ends up pretty well. I like the story. There's a Mary Sue element because of the character that's introduced, I think. Mm-hmm. But what I like is it's really grounded. Like Ed Brubaker was a really interesting person to take on X-Men because he had mostly done things like Criminal and Sleeper and Incognito, like these crime comics, Low Life. And these are all really good. He had a Daredevil run. Like he had done stuff that was generally more low key than the X-Men.
Yeah. And
I think that X-Men, like House Arrest X-Men, who kind of have to hedge their bets, is a really good fit for Ed Brubaker. And then he immediately went into space.
Yes.
And did a whole lot of stuff with his pet character Vulcan and the Shi'ar, and I'm less into that.
Yes.
But this is pretty cool. Cover by Mark Silvestri a monster, but it is a cool little take on the giant size X-Men cover #1.
Yeah.
With all of the X-Men as skeletons, which is obviously going to appeal to me.
Yes, I love skeletons and just about every single form. So this was into it. We start out at the mansion with Scott and Hank, kind of looking up into the sky as this figure of a sentinel hangs over it, and both of them being like, "Yeah, this sucks." But and Hank is like, that's one thing, but like to me, they're discussing like all of these mutants basically disappeared, and Hank says, everybody's made of energy, so if they just are not here anymore, where did that energy go? And we are taken into space where obviously a NASA mission has gone wrong. Prospect has gone wrong, and something's going on.
Before we go up to space, can we talk about long-haired beast, like quarantine hair beast?
I love it, dude. I respect it.
Issues?
Yeah, into
like, it. It's real good. Like he's got this is what I looked like before I cut my own hair. Like basically this.
Yeah, like a bass player.
Funny. Yeah, very bass player, huge bass player. Hair.
Like a bass player with cat ears, which is definitely somebody on Twitch right now. Like if I went to Twitch and type those words in,
many people on Twitch. So something's gone wrong on this the Prospect, this space shuttle. We see some of the astronauts and they've got like these tumors growing on them, and we get this mysterious figure. We're gonna find out who this is later, but it's teased out like a mystery. Who kind of wakes up getting zapped with energy.
Yes,
on this planet. And kind of goes through, he looks through these astronauts and doesn't know what's happened to them. And this energy kind of comes from space and zaps him.
Yes.
Here, taking out all the astronauts and empowering this man.
And he looks up and realizes that it's the 21st century. I think that's a real weird way, like if you haven't been around for a while. Like I would be like, it's 2005, not it's the 21st century. I also like, this is just an aside, and it's just because we just finished up Days of Future Past, but going from like this crazy, terrifying future of 2013 where Wolverine is like old to a 2005 comic where everybody is basically the same age. I know it's just the comic book medium as a whole, but it was a real like, what kind of thing for me.
Yeah. They should be going a little bit gray.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point.
He is very shocked and upset that it's 2005. Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, how could they do this? So something bad has happened. We cut back to the mansion where Colossus and Nightcrawler are looking at a portrait of the giant-sized X-Men original crew. For people who don't know, that is when the original X-Men went away, eventually went and formed X-Factor. And this is Wolverine, Banshee, Storm, Colossus, and Nightcrawler when they joined. I love him looking at this portrait, and then there's a portrait to the left that's just
Nightcrawler. Yeah.
Like just like the idea of like, Professor Xavier whistling as he asks someone to put that up.
I don't
just very funny to me.
I don't know if Will has made you watch the Taskmaster yet. I don't know if you've gotten in on that train. I'm
familiar with Taskmaster. Yeah. I haven't sat down and watched I'm not current with it, but I've watched 10 or 20 episodes.
As the series goes on, they put more and more pictures in the house, and it's just like an Old West family, but every single picture is photoshopped to be the Taskmaster, to be Craig Daniels, or weird.
I'm into that.
Or weird cricket teams, but with season 1 contestants all photoshopped on the heads, and like that was what I was picturing here. It's just like every picture has a Nightcrawler for some reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
it's Jean and Scott getting married, but Nightcrawler is in the corner somehow.
So they're basically they can't find Charles either. Charles has been missing since M Day. That's when House of M happened. And they can't find him, and it's just like, why has he not found us? Like, they're having this existential crisis without leadership. And
he's kind of reminiscing about the time that Charles Xavier saved him from those people that were coming to hunt and kill him. And like he says, he not only like saved me, but he also taught me that I wasn't the monster that they were like he didn't save me just physically, like he literally saved me as a person, and how special that is. And Colossus is basically like, don't worry, like Emma's on this is all that she's working on. And that takes us over to Cerebro.
Yep. Emma and Kitty Pryde are working. This is in the wake of Colossus coming back for a little while. This is Kitty Pryde rejoining the X-Men.
This is post.
At this point, I believe
this is post Astonishing. This has to be like, when is Astonishing?
Is that true? Let's find out.
Because like the way that Astonishing ends up is really.
Astonishing X-Men #1,
2004. So this would be post.
Yeah. I thought so because it was Colossus died from curing the legacy virus.
Yeah.
Like he was gone for a long time. That was in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this was he had come back. This is post Astonishing X-Men.
But not like post all of it because of the way that Kitty ends up in those books. So like this is kind of in between. And it does. It's
Astonishing X-Men started coming out 4 issues a year, 3 issues a year for a while. Yeah. Like
continuity. Who cares?
Who cares? This is playing with when Kitty Pryde came back in the Astonishing X-Men. She was like, "You guys are hanging out with Emma Frost. That's fucking nuts."
Yeah.
Remember Hellfire Club? Like. And this is them kind of sparring with each other. Kitty being kind of the tech expert, getting Cerebro running, and Emma being the psychic.
And I like that. I like it when Kitty Pryde throws shade at Emma Frost. Like it's usually written very well. Like it's always a lot of fun. Emma connects herself to Cerebro and immediately sees this omega level mutant, but it's moving extremely fast, and she's overwhelmed, and the thing like explodes with energy, and she projects a NASA rocket ship falling into Earth near New York. So Kitty can see it, but Emma is out for the count.
Yep. They start rushing her to the lab to do a medical test, and basically they fill each other in. Like there's a shuttle. Why wouldn't the shuttle land somewhere in Houston? Why is it landing near New York? That is not correct. So the X-Men get in their jet to leave and go check it out. And we're introduced, another member of the X-Men, Rachel, is on the X-Men at this time. And this is a big deal. They can't just leave the compound. They're under house arrest. So they have to sneak out from the Sentinel.
Yeah.
And the way they do this is they jet past it really quickly and then leave little chaff grenades, like things that leave their heat signature to mix it up.
So basically shaking loose the Sentinel so they can go check this out. Meanwhile, Kitty Pryde is in the bathroom. She's like trying to cope with the kind of mental feedback that she got from Emma when Emma went all nuts. And in the mirror, she sees Peter, but with like a huge bite taken out of Peter. Like she sees zombified Peter.
Yeah, the legacy virus took a bite out of him.
Yes, chomp, Peter, chomp.
Chomp. I'm an AIDS metaphor. Chomp. This is the first like vision. People are seeing ghosts.
Yes,
basically, here. They comfort one another. We cut over to Nightcrawler, who sees the angry mob, including one guy who has a shirt that just says "Hog."
I love it, dude. I'd wear that shirt.
Way into Hog.
Yeah, definitely.
Hog.
Since the guy from Twitch that apparently said the word PogChamp, like coined that phrase that went weirdly viral on that network, he's a weird like monster now. So everyone's like, we have to give up poggers, and I'm like, maybe we could just change it to hoggers instead. Like, let's less PogChamp, more HogChamp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is that's the origin of like pogged? Like somebody's pogged for something?
I think this dude just like started saying it for some reason. I don't know the actual like origin behind the word, but then I only know this because the dude is like a sex pest and then turned into a weird conservative monster. So
okay. Yeah, I know I'd heard people say things, getting totally pogged, but I didn't know what it was in reference to because we're pushing 40. 80 years of podcast experience on this podcast.
About 6 months worth of Twitch, you think, between us? Maybe?
Yeah, 6 months of Twitch, 80 years of podcasting experience.
If you want to donate those bits, though, we'll read it live on air, let me tell you.
Yep, I know what a bit is.
Sure.
Thanks for the Amazon Prime sub.
You mean Twitch gaming?
I suppose. So Nightcrawler, as he's walking through the grounds, it's actually turning into like Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the old country when he sees the ghost of these rednecks who tried to lynch him. European rednecks, even though they're drawn as American rednecks for some reason. They're all wearing flannel and shit.
Yeah.
They're yelling at him, kill him. He's a monster. Burn him alive. He's freaking out. He's running away. And he's just like basically having this psychic attack and having this freak out. He manages to get away, and we looks up, they're all gone. Like it was just a vision.
Yeah. We go back over to our mission team, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Rachel. And Rachel has kind of pinpointed where this is. It's somewhere in New York, but Wolverine sees something, and he's like, "You got to kind of take a look at this." And it's a giant hand coming out of the ground, which has grabbed this rocket ship, this spaceship, which is obviously was about to crash into the ground itself.
Super cool image.
Very cool. Like what the fuck is happening here?
Yep. They get out to check it out. We cut over to Banshee here, where Hank has been in contact with Banshee over on Muir Island, basically seeing if there were any files that might suggest where Professor X had gone.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, Moira McTaggart died recently. Like, this is just really depressing to me. She's my ex-girlfriend. I slept in our bed last night. Like, Banshee, come on, man. Like, cool, dude.
But also, like, Hank, what are you really looking for here? Like, did Professor Xavier leave a bug out bag on your island? And you're like, does it have 10 addresses of potential sites that we're going to be going to?
Like Xavier safe houses?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so great, too, because it just turns out Xavier's drinking when we eventually find him. He's in a bar. But Banshee sees Moira McTaggart outside and starts freaking out, runs outside, and this is another ghost. Cut back to the X-Men. The X-Men are walking into this cave, and they see Jean Grey, specifically in her old Marvel Girl uniform. And she's like, help me. They run in. Like, it's obviously a trap, but Rachel falls for it.
And as they start chasing Rachel, we see this dude from space, and he's he's all in shadow. He's got glowy eyes, and he's got a ripped up superhero uniform. Like, we can't really see anything. And they immediately attack because he's holding Rachel by her neck using one glowing hand.
Mm-hmm. We cut back to Banshee chasing that ghost. The ghost leads him over to the computer that has all of Charles Xavier's secret files.
The ghost goes to D : Xavier : secret : do not open.
Yeah. Yeah.
I meant slash, not colon. Jesus.
Secret file. We go back to the cave where this guy, and let's just start calling him Vulcan because I don't want to just say this guy before they reveal it. Vulcan just like owns Cyclops and Wolverine. Like, Brubaker did the X-Men as very depowered, and Vulcan as incredibly superpowered in a way that feels a little bit, as I said, Mary Sue-ish, to just have somebody show up and just, easily win. But the idea is like, this is, a new villain. Like, you're getting on my nerves. Like, he's doing villain speech shit.
Yes.
As he's, and his powers are really ill-defined. He kind of zaps Wolverine. And one thing I love, he tries to shoot, or Cyclops tries to shoot him. He just waves his hand and makes the beam.
Really cool looking panel. Yeah. Like,
it's incredible.
Stops it and then circles it around and throws it right back at Cyclops, which is super fucking cool.
Yeah, love it. So he zaps everybody here, and he looks at Rachel. He's like, "You're Marvel Girl. You're not like my Marvel Girl." And he starts insinuating to Cyclops, like, hey, I know you. Scott, you haven't changed. He's like, you don't know me. He's like, you don't remember me. Like, well, I've got a use for the girl. And he drags them off.
Yep.
Cyclops and Rachel.
Meanwhile, over Muir Island, the ghost has opened up D Xavier files / do not open.avi. No, really, this is 2 girls 1 cup. Please do not open.mkv. And it's a video file of Moira McTaggart, who had recorded herself saying, I need to remind myself what a complete and utter bastard Charles Xavier is, because I know given time I will forgive him. So this is some secret shit about Xavier that we do not know about. Meanwhile, Wolverine wakes up, and I guess Cyclops' blast has completely torn off all of his uniform, so he's super naked, and a Sentinel and a military helicopter is there, telling him not to move.
To arrest him. We get, at the end of each of these issues, there's a gimmick where they introduce these new characters who we're going to find out more about. I would like to move through these quickly.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty basic. Lame. Yeah,
like they're really basic, and spoiler, it's not going to amount to much. These characters. So this is introducing, and there's rhyme and reason to who is introduced when. Like, there's a reason why we're being introduced to Petra.
Yes.
Here, who is basically a homeless girl who is a mutant, who for a time kind of came out of poverty by crushing diamonds and turning them, or coal and turning them into diamonds.
Cole Ross,
which is crazy. Yep, crushing Kole
to diamonds.
His Google alerts are all going to pop up. And eventually gets cornered by the police, fights them, and then gets recruited by someone we don't know yet. She has the power to manipulate rocks and does not have a lot of personality other than being kind of like a street, a tough street girl.
And I think notably, like in the very first page that we see her, like when people start to attack her, like she causes the ground to reach up and grab them. Like,
yes,
hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
That is the reason why we're learning about Petra now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, remind you of anything.
And these are all like really like these are all pretty simple. Like it's a typical mutant origin story. Like I think it's nifty that it has a different art style and like you're getting these at the end of the book. I think it's an interesting way to give backstory to characters we don't even know exist yet within the context of the story. But so I think they're cool. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on them though.
It just ends up being like, I guess, spoiler, like this won't matter that much. And that's kind of what makes me not get too invested in Petra's origin, but that's the end of the first issue. Again, it's 6 issues, and we're going to keep going.
Yes.
We're going to be back in a couple days with issue 2.
Yeah. And if you like this podcast, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv is the place to go to show your support. You can also leave ratings and reviews on iTunes and various other podcasting services which support reviews. Some of those we read. I don't, maybe not all of them, but some of them we definitely. I honestly, I read all of the reviews that come in. Like I'm plugged into that stuff, and we appreciate all of those. And you can also tell your friends about the podcast to spread awareness. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I do not read them, but I want them to be nice.
Yes, yeah.
So I still appreciate them. It's just not good for my mental health to read reviews.
They are nicer reviews than you would expect. Let me say that.
Oh, of course, yeah. No, I believe it. I just don't get anything from nice reviews because I got a broken brain. Dude.
Yeah, that's true.
It ain't good up here. Good night.
Good night, Michael. You've been asking for sign-offs for your various shows. Maybe it ain't good up here. Bye.
That's a really good sign-off, man. It ain't good up here. Till next time.